Imagine you are sitting at your desk or at a table, and on that table is a globe of the world. The land masses are shown as brown, green, red, grey, but the areas of water, the oceans, are coloured a light blue. You've probably seen a globe like this. Now imagine that you have one with you. And as you're glancing at it, you're looking at the Americas, Canada, the United States to the north, down through Mexico, South America, and idly you turn the globe slightly. You turn it with a finger. And now you're looking at the Atlantic Ocean, the North Atlantic, the South Atlantic, with Africa bulging in on the right-hand side. You turn the globe a little bit more, and now you're seeing the whole of Africa, with the Mediterranean and Europe above. You turn it a bit more, and now it's the Indian Ocean, with India at the top, Asia beyond that again to the north. Then you turn it even more, and it's Southeast Asia, China, underneath Australia. And then you turn it about a quarter of a turn more. And suddenly, all you can see is that light blue, which represents the sea, the ocean, stretching all the way from the top of the globe, right down to the bottom, with maybe a speck of land either side. And there seems to be nothing in that huge amount of blue which represents the Pacific Ocean, the greatest ocean on our planet. But if you look closely, very closely, get your eyes down close to the globe, you'll see little specks here and there with writing alongside them. Hawaii Islands, Fiji, Samoan Islands, and so forth. But they're just tiny specks that you can hardly see. And yet, you know full well that some of those islands are 50 miles across. But they seem nothing against that vast expanse of blue. Imagine then how small one little aircraft would be, lost across the vast Pacific Ocean. How difficult it would be to locate where that aircraft is. About 5 days before Christmas, in the year 1978, a man by the name of J. Prochnow, an ex-United States Navy pilot, was ferrying a little aircraft right across the Pacific Ocean. The aircraft was a Cessna Agwagon 300. Cessna Agwagon 300. Had a 42-foot wingspan, about 27 feet long, single seat. You see, it was a crop duster. Fixed undercarriage, no automatic pilot, which meant, of course, when flying it, he had to have his feet on the pedals and his hands on the control column the whole way. Now, you might think to yourself, what would a little aircraft like that be doing right out over the vast reaches of the Pacific Ocean? Well, it's fairly commonplace, even today. You see, Jay was ferrying, that's the word they use, ferrying, a brand new plane across the ocean from San Diego in the United States of America to a rich grazier living in Australia. Now, there is no way that a little aeroplane with an endurance means the time it can stay in the air with a full load of fuel, with an endurance of just over 3 hours, could make that distance. So, what did he have to do? He had to virtually convert the whole aircraft into a flying fuel tank. Where the crop dust would go, they put in extra fuel tanks. But they couldn't make it too heavy, otherwise the plane wouldn't take off. But still, with the modifications, he could fly quite a long way. But no way could that little aircraft, even when filled to the top with fuel, make the distance from San Diego to Sydney, Australia. So, what did they do? He decided to do what all of those have done before him. He would island hop. The first leg would be San Diego to Hawaii. From Hawaii, he would fly down to Pago Pago in American Samoa. And from Pago Pago in American Samoa, he would fly to Norfolk Island. And then from Norfolk on to Sydney. Now, it's possible that you've visited Norfolk Island. And if you have, you'll think to yourself, well, it's a pretty big island. I mean, they use little cars to get around the place there. It's big. It's not huge, but it's big. But from the air, it's not big at all. It's just one of those tiny specks that I mentioned earlier. Now, J. Prochnow didn't have a lot of navigation aids in that aircraft. When I worked for the Department of Civil Aviation back in the 1960s, we would see a flight plan of a large airliner come in, clicking away on the old teletype, and it would have all manner of information on it. And on that flight plan would be the letter K followed by some numerals. Those numerals might be 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. What did they represent? Those numerals represented the navigational aids carried by that aircraft. It could be radar, visual aural range, visual omni range, instrument landing system, ILS, distant measuring equipment, NDB navigational aids, all of that stuff. But on a little aeroplane like a crop duster, all he had as standard was a magnetic compass. That wasn't deemed to be enough. So, before leaving, he'd had installed another gadget, another navigational aid called an ADF, Automatic Direction Finder. And the Automatic Direction Finder, if you can imagine, if you look at a lighthouse, you see the light swinging around and it can be seen in any direction. Now, an Automatic Direction Finder is a bit like, if you can imagine, the speedometer on your car with a needle. As you go faster, the needle points. Well, the needle of the Automatic Direction Finder would point towards a radio beacon, an NDB, non-directional beacon. When they say non-directional, it means it pointed in all directions. It was omnidirectional. It would send out a signal from where it was on the ground. Now, in navigation in those days, NDBs or non-directional beacons were very useful because an aircraft flying along could tune itself into one beacon on the ground, say to the southwest, another beacon perhaps up to the northwest, get a fix on both and where the lines intersected, one beacon from another, that was where he was, above the surface of the ground, or if it was a ship, on the sea. But over land, you can put NDBs all over the place. Australia's full of them, as would be America, Europe. But what do you do out in the middle of the Pacific? You can't put them on a raft. It's too deep to raft to the bottom. You can only put them on islands. And so when J. Prochnow took off, he had to home in on NDBs on various islands. Now, can imagine the following scene. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. He's lined up on the main runway of Pago Pago in American Samoa. He's already flown all the way from San Diego to Hawaii, landed there, spent a restless night, and the next day flown down to American Samoa, Pago Pago. And now he's on the leg, or getting ready for the leg, of flying from Pago Pago to Norfolk Island. He lines up on the runway. It's about 3 minutes past 3 in the morning. And he calls the tower. Pago Pago, this is Cessna 30771. I'm ready for takeoff. Pago Pago 771, this is Pago Pago Tower. You're cleared for takeoff. He revs up the motor. It's starting to tremble, but he's got the brakes on. He's holding it back. He's giving it full power because he knows he needs the whole length of the runway to get airborne with that huge weight of fuel. And then all of a sudden he releases the brakes. Down the runway he flashes the lights, flashing by on either side. Faster and faster he's going. He feels it's ready to take off, and he just gradually eases back, very, very gently. He eases back very gently on the control column, going out in a dead straight line. He just clears the palm trees at the end of the runway, and then the next moment he's up over the ocean. Beneath him, nothing but blackness. Nothing but blackness. No fishing boats, nothing there. He keeps it in a straight line. He's going to climb up to 8,000 feet. He daren't even turn it in case the weight of the fuel just throws him a bit off balance. Up he goes, flying, through 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. When he gets up to about 5,000 feet, he very slowly eases the control around to the left, and then he turns his aircraft until he's facing on a course of 220 degrees magnetic. He's bound for Norfolk Island, 1,600 miles away. I'll continue with this story in the next part of this story, Lost over the Pacific.